Okay, so we talked earlier about projections. We talked again about the fact that because the Earth is a sphere, it is round, and maps are flat, clearly things are going to be changed along the way. So we understand that any map you look at, every single map out there has some distortion or some error of some kind to really make sure that we can, again, transfer this 3D image to a 2D image. So there's a couple of different ways that maps can be distorted. You might see area distorted. You might see the shape of a location. So the shape of America or the shape of Africa change. Distance, so the physical amount of time to travel between one state to the next, or the physical distance on a map. The size, we see on many of our maps that certain continents, such as Africa, are distorted and made smaller when in reality they're actually a lot bigger. Or direction, maybe the direction is not as accurate as it could have been. So those are the different types of distortion: area and shape, distance, size, and direction. Let's look at some different map projections.
All right, this is a Mercator, and it's used for navigation. An advantage of this projection is it was used first for navigation and then preserves direction, and it preserves direction for maritime navigation, that's shipping. The disadvantage of this is that it distorts shape and size, especially at the poles.
You guys can see the distortion. Look at how we know in reality that, our poles are not this big, but in order to preserve the direction for travel and for navigating, early geographers had to distort it that way, making your poles appear way larger than they actually are. Mercator's map was actually used for a really, really, really long time in history, one of the first types of projections out there. Here is Goods, and Goods we always kind of think looks like an orange peel. It looks like you've actually are like streamers that have actually been cut up. And again, in order to really try to take this 3D image and put it onto a 2D flat surface, obviously things are getting distorted. And so what's attempting to be preserved here is the size and the shape of your land masses. So we mentioned already the size of Africa and how large Africa is. You can see the difference between these two projections. Look at the size of Africa here on Goods versus the size of Africa here on Mercator. So what Goods map is attempting to do is preserve these sizes of these land masses and the shape of the land mass. But in order to do that, it totally distorts the water. You can see how much of the water area is being cut out in order to do so.
Okay, this is Robinson, and it's used for general mapping. And an advantage of this projection is that it preserves all by distorting shape, area, distance, direction, and size. And the disadvantage is distorts everything.
Yeah,
but it's the one we're most common, probably the one we see the most in books and things like that.
Yep, you'll see this map in your classroom. National Geographic used Robinson for a long time, and they kind of go back and forth sometimes with what they use, but everything is distorted. And so in order to distort everything, you distort everything a little bit less. So again, like Ms. Kostanek said, this is the one you guys are going to be pretty familiar with. If you look around your classroom to see maps, this is one you may see often. All right, this is Azamuthal's map. Azimuthal, we always kind of think of start at the North Pole, you put your pencil or your pen on the top of your globe and then right in the middle and you look down. And that really is what the view or the perception that you're getting here from Azimuthal. Really, really attempting here to preserve the correct distance from the center of the Earth to maintain the direction from that point of view. The problem here, and I think it's really clear to see, is you can't see the entire Earth from this projection. And so although it gives you a different perspective and it allows you to kind of understand the direction between these different features, it doesn't really give you a clear image of what the Earth looks like.
Okay, next is the conic. It's used for aeronautics. It preserves size and shape of land masses, and by projecting first to a cone and then laying it on the image on a flat surface is how this works. And the disadvantage to this is that direction is not always constant.
You guys can see that. I mean, look at the way that America is completely focus in a different direction. And if we were to take a ruler, a pen, and to draw that distance here between Africa and America, and then look at that same image up here, obviously our direction has completely changed using this view. But again, for air travel, for airplanes, this is a really popular use. And your last is Peters. Peters projection really attempts to preserve the shape in the area of the landmass. So by shape, again, we're seeing the physical outline or the political boundaries of these shapes, and then the area, the size. And in this case, Peter is really being credited for presenting Africa in a way that is reality, where a lot of our other maps you guys can see really distorts the size of Africa. And we can see here, this is really going to distort the shape then, especially at the poles. You can see the shape of our land masses at the poles are going to change. What Peter's map really did was it brought up this political issue behind map making is in the Western world and some of our more developed countries, such as, North America, Australia, etc., are the economic development of our countries changing what our maps look like. And so Peter, again, was really credited for presenting Africa in the way that they are. And you guys can see, I just went to Chicago and I was at one of the museums and I saw this image. I thought it was really cool, so I snagged a picture of it. But again, it really shows you firsthand how big Africa is and how many things can fit in it. And if you're in Miss Kastonic's room and if you look towards the window, you can actually see a very similar image of this in her room as well.